Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. My name is Helen Dion, and I am the Senior Marketing Manager for SWK Technologies. Welcome to our webinar, Investing in AR and AP Automation, Why It's Worth It. This webinar is presented by SWK's very own AvidXchange expert, Daryl Boyd, and from Lockstep, we have Matt Shanahan. So we've invited our wonderful partners, AvidXchange and Lockstep, to present today because they are the industry-leading experts on AP and AR automation. AvidXchange is one of the fastest growing technology companies in the US with 20 years experience helping more than 7,000 North American companies cut costs, improve visibility, and increase efficiencies in their AP and payment processes. Their solutions integrate with over 180 accounting systems, including Sage and Acumatica, and they've earned the trust of more than 700,000 suppliers in processing over 145 billion in spend management just in 2020. Lockstep's AR automation solution is built by accounting professionals for accounting professionals and delivers an average of 20 times return on investment. They are recognized by industry leaders by Gartner and ADC MarketScape, and AR Tech Titan Award winner. They serve over 250 world-renowned brands and organizations and have a robust list of integrations. So, all this to say, you're in excellent hands today, and if you have any questions about AR and AP automation, now is definitely the time to ask throughout the presentation. So thank you all for joining us, and if you are wondering about your Grubhub gift cards, we'll be sending those within 24 hours through the email address that you use to register. So thanks again, everyone, for joining, and we're gonna kick it off. Over to you, Matt.
Awesome. Well, Daryl, it's great to be able to join you again. It's always a pleasure to share best practices with other people.
Indeed, Matt.
Maybe you could start off with some of the findings that I think AvidXchange had done a poll, right?
Yeah, AvidXchange conducted a survey recently to see what this digital transformation everyone's talking about is really all about. And what they found is that many businesses did indeed go through some sort of digital transformation in the last year or so. And what that really means is companies are taking a much closer look at how they can leverage technology to improve efficiency and operational processes. It's interesting, though, that still many accounting departments are still using Outlook and Excel for AR and AP, and still making many of their payments via check. But there is definitely a trend towards this digital transformation to leverage the technology to make it easier to do these things.
Yeah, and it's kind of what we heard as well. A lot of what we're hearing is this move to remote work. And even though some people are going back from the office, there's still a lot of this remote work taking place. And what happened is that exposed underlying conditions in the processes, and especially like in AR, paper is suddenly this office anchor, right? You got to get rid of the paper.
Yep.
Relying on Outlook, how do you know what your team members are focused on? Who's doing what? How do we coordinate this? And again, because of the nature of what's going on, there's an increased workload, right? Just how do you get all this done because of the increased risk? And I think that's one of the big things we've heard is there's more urgency based on this whole move to remote work, and it's made people we've seen the decision process much faster as well. People are making decisions. They come in educated. They know what their challenges are. They're evaluating multiple solutions. So it's a really different dynamic than it was maybe 12, 18 months ago.
Yeah, we're seeing the same thing among our customers, Matt. And in fact, you alluded to this big move for people to work somewhere other than an office, typically at home. And what we've seen is it's actually facilitated not just optimizing business process, but just staying in business in the first place. So being able to work virtually from any location, any time of day, really has helped a lot of companies stay afloat over this past year and a half.
Yeah, it makes sense. So yeah, there's clearly. Oh, go ahead, Daryl.
No, you go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, when this really touches on the point you were making about, most organizations, 62% of them really feel confident that their plans will impact the future of their business. They're thinking about how do you adapt. But, there's still, with Delta variant and things going on, the economy the way it is, people have some level of anxiety that are going into this. So that this transformation, move is not done yet, is really what this says. And, I don't know if that's what you're hearing as well, Daryl.
We are. And in fact, what we've seen is that somewhere around half of the customers that we work with, maybe actually a little more than half, see AR and AP automation as the best possible opportunity to transform their business. It's very easy to implement AR and AP automation. So I don't want to call it the path of least resistance, but it does offer a great opportunity for success. And it offers a great proof point to the decision makers that this is the right place to invest.
Absolutely. And part of our goal today to share with everybody here is there's a lot of parts of the organization that want to change. So transformation is across the company. And so in some ways, your initiative to improve AR and AP is competing with other initiatives. And so we want to equip you with, how do you establish your business case? How can you create a return on investment that allows for your business case to rise to the top? And so hopefully that's a big part of what we go through today.
Yeah, I like the way you put it before, Matt, where you said, how do you elbow your way to the front of the line to get that attention you need?
Yeah, we want to soft elbows, not too hard, because they are teammates. Right? We don't want to create too many bruises. But yes, you do.
Soft
you still
elbows.
have to. Yep. I'll get to the top of the list. So before we jumped in, we wanted to do a couple of poll questions. The first is really around, is automation a priority for your organization in the coming year? Just, how do you fit in relative to the trends we just talked about? We'll give that just a minute. Helen, how are we doing on the poll?
So yeah, I was just going to jump in. We're at about 25% voted. So we'll give it maybe just 5 more seconds for everyone to vote. So we're asking, is automation a priority for your organization in the coming year? Yes, we are prioritizing AR automation. We are prioritizing AP automation. We are prioritizing other backend processes, or no, we have no other priorities. So it looks like we are good to close, and I will share those responses with you. All right, so it looks like we have a good mix of prioritizing AR automation and AP automation. This was a multiple choice answer option. So we did have some people select more than one option, AR and AP. So interesting results.
Yeah, how many selected no?
The number isn't showing for me, but about 24%.
So
a couple dozen.
It ties in line with what we just saw, that really 81% are still really focused on what can we do to move things forward. So it's good to see that it's consistent. Our second question is really, what's your biggest priority in terms of this kind of automation? What's the business case that you're focused on making this happen? And thank you everyone for participating. It's great to share with your peers kind of your own thinking, and that's our goal here, is to kind of share with each other what's going on in the marketplace.
Yep, so if you could take a quick moment to answer our poll, what is your biggest priority in improving your accounting processes, freeing up staff time, cost savings, increasing your cash flow, visibility into invoices and payments? I know we could all use more time in our day, so that would be my choice.
Yeah, we can manufacture time. That would be great.
All right, so it looks like the majority have voted, so I will go ahead and close out and share results. Okay, looks like a lot of us are in agreement, freeing up staff time. Cost savings also, close second.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for participating. What we'll do is we'll kind of shift gears, and I will spend a little bit of time about accounts receivable automation, and especially the business case for it. And then Daryl will spend some time on AP automation. So what we've seen in a lot of organizations is that collections is still being managed with email and spreadsheets. So spreadsheet might look something like this, where at the beginning of the week you run an aging report, you export that aging report into an Excel spreadsheet or maybe Google Sheets, and then you kind of track any of the calls that are made, the follow-up notes, and everything else are done through this spreadsheet. The challenge is it's highly manual, and it reduces kind of what you're doing. So you're having to prioritize like which activities. You come up with your own way of doing that. You've got to deal with reminders. How do you get reminders out to people? So you're manually, because Outlook has no way to automatically send an email. So you have to manually do that and send it out. You're trying to collect confirmations and write those confirmations down. Installment plans, if you're doing that, you've got to kind of track what's going on. Promise to pays, all these things that you're fully aware of end up being manually done through spreadsheets and email. And it really slows everything down. And specifically, we'll talk about what it impacts on your financials as a result of that. So accounts receivable automation is a solution to get rid of spreadsheets and using Outlook as a basis for managing collections. And it's cloud-based software. It integrates directly with your accounting system. And it streamlines all of your activities so that you can collect more cash. The main components of the solution are automated communications, so the ability to trigger emails out, just like marketing automation. A customer self-service portal, so just like support has a way that customers can come in and get questions answered, same sort of thing, an ability for customers to come in, see their accounts, understand, make payments, those kinds of things. Collections activity management, just like sales, has a way to track which customers they're following up on and what they're doing to bring in the revenue. This is a way to have for the team knowing who's working on with which customers to bring in the cash and which activities are most important now. Cash application, the ability to take payment remittance information and post it back into the ERP. And of course, forecasting and reporting. Those are the ability to understand future cash flow and what's coming in. So those are the main things that make up AR automation. Now, Lockstep provides that solution. The way we do it is our solution connects directly to the ERP, and there's what we call an accounts receivable data management layer that brings over things like contacts and customer information, credit memos, invoices, payments, all of that is needed in the collections process. From there, there's a rules engine that's able to understand, aging of invoices or status of the account or things that are going on. And that rules engine can trigger off communications to your customer. So that's where those automated communications come in. Those communications are really encouraging the customer to come back to a customer self-service portal where they can look at their account, make payments, et cetera, right there. So if everything's working really well, this is 100% automated, zero touch to be able to do your collections. Customers are getting helpful reminders, et cetera, in that situation. But sometimes issues come up. There could be a dispute on something. Something didn't get delivered. The customer may be having a cash flow issue of their own. That's when the rules engine is able to create and assign an activity to a member of your team who can go out and work that resolution with the customer to get the issue taken care of. So that's how AR automation works and how it essentially drives your business forward. So let's talk about the business benefits of doing that. So for instance, here's an automated communications benchmark. And what you'll see here in this situation, that part where we talked about the triggered communications, those automated communications going out, we benchmark the before and after of every one of our customers. And we roll those benchmarks up across customers so we can see what is the impact of turning on this functionality. And what you see is the average days delinquent with no automated communications is 39 days. When you turn on automated communications, it drops it down to 18 days. That's almost a 54% improvement, right, by reducing average days delinquent. That translates to more cash in your bank. So that just means that you've got a higher level of cash and you're being able to manage your cash flow much more effectively. Now, when you look at customer self-service, one thing we like to look at is the difference between are you using online payments or not using online payments. And what you see here is when you're not using online payments, kind of your average, your percentage past due is 24%. Your average days delinquent will, across all companies was 24 days. As soon as the online payments came in place, it drops down to 16% and 10 days as the average days delinquent. And you might ask yourself, like, why is that? Why would that happen? Well, imagine your customers are now working in a remote world as well. AP just got harder for them, right? And it's harder for them to cut checks. They may not have their own electronic payment mechanism. So when you make it easier for them to pay you, they'll pay you sooner. And remember, the biggest thing about an AP department, just like any other department, they've got to do month-end closing. So they're very motivated to really make sure that they've got all their payments in, that they can close their books and do it in a reliable way. So when you make it easier for them to pay, it dramatically impacts your ability to collect more efficiently. The other thing that we'll look at is activity management. So what does activity management do for you? You can see here's 3 different strategies for activity management. One, you see over there, it's just mainly automated. We just turn on the automated communications. We're not going to do any follow-up. We're just going to see if that works. What you can see is that's much better than doing things 100% manually. So by turning on that automated communications, you can see here the past due dropped pretty significantly. But if you have the right outreach at the right time, which is that one in the middle, which is a mixture between automated and manual activities, that's where you see the biggest improvement. So 16% past due in that case. So that's a reduction from mainly manual by almost 53%. And the reason for that, there's always like, why does that matter? Remember that accounts receivable is a customer relationship role. Having that personal touch in the middle of that is really important. It turns out people get paid sooner when they're sort of reaching out, saying, I'm just checking in with you, making sure you're okay. Simple things like that, you'd be amazed at how that impacts. So if you're able to really get this good mix between automated and the personal touch and the outreach, then it has a dramatic impact on your collections. So these are the benefits. As you saw, not only were we able to reduce past due and everything else, which directly gets into increased working capital. The sooner you bring that cash in, the more working capital you have in the bank. The way to think about it is if you're selling $1 million every day of your product or your service, and you're able to reduce DSO by 10, you're going to have $10 million more in your bank account. That's exactly what it means to increase working capital. As a result of that, you increase cash from operations, but the key thing is freeing up staff time. If you're not having to manually write these emails, if you're not tracking, follow-ups in a spreadsheet, if you're not having to, chase contact information down, you're saving a lot of time. And that time can be used to resolve issues, build customer relationship, focus on more strategic things such as helping general accounting, close the books. Those are all things that become valuable as a result of that. These benefits all go straight to the bottom line, which increases shareholder value. And what we see on average is a 20 times return on investment as a result of this. Let's just give you a couple of quick examples. EST Associates is a testing and services company. Once they implemented the solution, they were able to generate $243,000 worth of cash in their bank account. And significantly, they saved over 1,300 hours annually as a result of that. So it's the seamless integration that they were looking at, that would drive those process automation elements for them. At Brennan IT, they are an IT services company. It generated more than $1.8 million for them, right, in terms of working capital that they could do, and saved over 1,900 hours. They've, over the last couple of years, really grown pretty dramatically. And during that period of time, in order to scale, they normally would have had to hire 3 to 4 more people. As a result of that kind of the automation, they really were able to minimize having to make those investments and just grew by 1 in that case. But this is the story I tend to really like from AmSpec. This is an example where they generated over $10 million of cash. And you can see the hours saved. But the reason I like this story so much is when you look at what was happening before automation, actually the department would be constantly turning over people because the accounts receivable team was doing very menial tasks. It was just, they couldn't retain people. Now, since the implementation of automation, they've kept every one of the team members. And you can see here, this is a quote from the manager. They actually look forward to when these email blasts are going out. So they have 3 really happy employees, according to their quote there. And it's, so, there's always this concern, will automation, is this going to replace my job or something along those lines? And what we're seeing consistently is it enhances the role. And it's a very important aspect of being able to do more for a company and use that time more valuably. So I hope you had a chance to, really understand what we're doing in the area and how we can create value for you and how we can help you build a business case. I'll turn it over to Daryl.
Thanks, Matt. And, you're going to see and hear a lot of commonalities between the benefits of AR automation and the benefits of AP automation. And before I jump into the meat of the presentation here, just a little bit about AvidXchange, the company. SWK goes through great pains to select best of breed solutions. And that's why we've selected Lockstep for AR automation and AvidXchange for AP automation. The AvidXchange is transforming, there's that word again, it's transforming how middle market businesses receive, manage, and pay their bills. AvidXchange was founded in 2000 and is based in Charlotte, North Carolina, and provides accounts payable or AP software as a service, and I like to say people as a service, because that's one of the key differentiators with AvidXchange is the extent to which the customer experience is supported by literally hundreds of people in support roles on both the invoice management and the payment management side. The AvidXchange AvidPay network consists of more than 700,000 suppliers, and last year alone, the company processed over 52 million transactions with a total payment volume of about 38 million, which is up 15% from the previous year, and it continues to grow. So recently, AvidXchange conducted a survey to understand how today's challenges are impacting AP departments. And what we've seen is that fully 1/3 of finance leaders still receive most of their invoices and payments through the mail. And more than half have experienced delays in processing invoices from their vendors in the last year. And much of that due to the pandemic and having to work remotely, but that was a pretty substantial figure even before that. They've confirmed rather that this difficulty in securing approvals while working remotely was the chief cause for delay in invoice processing. Deloitte ran a survey that showed more than 1/3 of all businesses reported higher processing costs as a major challenge with traditional payment methods. As it happens, it costs a typical accounts payable organization nearly $8 per transaction to process a single supplier payment, and most of that comes from labor cost. These challenges highlight some of the pain points that AP teams face with a manual process. Fully half of organizations globally said they've been the victims of fraud, and half of those say that the fraud was perpetrated by people inside the organization. A limited end-to-end view of the transactions associated with multiple payment methods results in extra costs, delays, chargebacks, and a payment cycle disruption. There's a lot of data entry involved in the traditional process that leads to incorrect vendor addresses and other information, and failure to cross-check records and bank accounts to ensure accuracy. The old adage that time is money has never been truer in this space, and companies are paying for hours of employee time dedicated to manual data entry and approval workflows that could be spent on more impactful work. As Matt alluded to just a moment ago, the idea is not to replace people, but to reallocate them to more impactful tasks that really have a dramatic effect on the company's bottom line. All of these pain points point to efficiency. That's the result of saving time and money, executing financial transactions, such as processing invoices and payments, but in an automated fashion. A survey conducted last year showed that operational efficiency was the reason most often cited as the driver for automation, and that's followed closely by cost reduction and streamlining the overall approvals process. Now, hand in hand with efficiency is flexibility. Being able to access invoices and payments from anywhere has a huge positive impact on operations. Fraud reduction. We actually have a customer who predominantly paid their B2B bills with a paper check and had experienced a substantial amount of check fraud and determined that it had been done internally. Well, they went to primarily electronic payments and thereby reduced the amount or even the probability of check fraud. But even over and above that, AvidXchange provides what's called positive pay information for the bank to further assist with reduction of fraud. Now, in addition to eliminating the hard costs of accounts payable like check stock, printing, and postage, customers also can receive rebates, incentives based on the amount of and the number of electronic payments that are executed on their behalf, and that helps to generate a predictable return on investment. With AP automation by AvidXchange, as I mentioned, there are dedicated supplier support teams to assist you and your suppliers, making sure they're paid on time and they're paid in the method that they prefer. So you as our customer don't have to manage any address details, payment information, banking information, or researching the status of a payment that's due your vendor. That is all done for you by AvidXchange. So ultimately, again, the idea is to free up your time to perform more valuable tasks. So think for a moment, what projects could your AP professionals get done if they had more time to do them? This is an example of what I like to call the before and after automation view. The before automation flow chart there was designed by Ardent Partners in a report they called State of Payables. And it may not exactly mimic your process, but it's a good generic representation of the manual process from receipt of an invoice to issuing a payment, and even after that, filing that invoice to be retrieved later for follow-up and for reconciliation. But by adding AP automation into your environment and leveraging the support team that I alluded to earlier, the view after automation is you're left with just 3 basic tasks to perform: coding, approval, and selecting for payment. And what we've noticed as a result of that automation is improvement to the tune of about 2.5 times the rate of straight-through processing of invoices and payments. Dramatic improvement in productivity. The key differentiator of automating with AvidXchange is really in the power of the AvidPay network. So as I mentioned earlier, the network consists of 700,000 suppliers and continues to grow. The network will facilitate payment by check, direct deposit, or virtual card payment. Support teams are in place to manage that process end to end and offload much of what the customer would ordinarily do. Suppliers get timely and accurate transaction detail that they need for reconciliation. As I talked about a moment ago, electronic payments will generate rebates for the customer based on their number and volume of electronic payments, and the funds are guaranteed. Once that transaction is complete, you don't have to worry about it coming back. So change is happening. We talked about being in the midst of a digital transformation, and it is ongoing. One of the things that folks are looking at in this regard is this integrated platform for invoice approvals and payments of an invoice within one environment. So AP professionals have real-time visibility into supply, demand, and ultimately cash flow, supporting effective capital allocation decisions. There was a survey performed at the end of the year where more than 25% of respondents said that contactless payments in banking would be the most important area of financial technology innovation in 2021, followed by real-time payments. The virtual cards, again, represent the greatest opportunity for commercial payments growth and have gained wide interest among companies looking to improve working capital. As many suppliers are experiencing some turbulence financially, some are already preparing to accept virtual cards to get paid faster. Matt, I know Lockstep has a customer payment portal. What's been your experience? Have you seen an increase in speed of payments for those who are using your payment portal?
Absolutely, yeah. That was part of the benchmark that we were showing. Again, many customers don't have an electronic payment mechanism. As you indicated, they pay by check, but they're finding it difficult to get into the office and make those payments. So anytime you're able to provide an online electronic payment mechanism that they can take advantage of, it gets adopted pretty broadly. So just as whether you're initiating a payment from your AP system, you also, for kind of flexibility, not everybody will have AP automation. Offering electronic payments to those that don't have AP automation is a great second choice.
Indeed. Thank you. Well, SWK would like to invite you to contact us for more information about Lockstep AR automation or AvidXchange AP automation. And there's our websites listed there at the bottom of the screen. And I think we've got time now for some Q&A.
We sure do. So if anyone has questions, like I mentioned before, now is a great time to ask because we have some really great subject matter experts with us today. So let's see if any questions are coming in. Okay, let's see. There's a couple coming in. Let me get there. Okay, so I think this question applies to both of you for AvidXchange or Lockstep. Do you have one standard user or different users available?
So for in the case of Lockstep, we actually have a couple of different user types. So there's typically the core team member. So if you're on the AR staff, you would have that capability. But then we have if you will, stakeholder seats. So people in sales or account management or executives that just want to be able to come in and look at the dashboards or look up a certain account, et cetera. So we do definitely have different roles, including also a manager role. So if you have a team of people, you can have a manager responsible for managing the team as well.
And similarly, AvidXchange has different user roles as well. And it really depends on what it is they need to do when they're in this secure portal. for managing invoices and payments. So as an example, the way your view is determined is through your login credentials. So not everyone will have a view of both invoices and payments. Only those invoices that pertain to your role in the organization could be by department. And of course, not everyone's going to have access to the payment engine either. That's going to be reserved for those who approve payments. And no one else is going to have access to that. In fact, that icon would be grayed out. So there are different user roles, and it can be customized based on the requirements of that particular user or set of users. And you can actually even grant read-only access to auditors. So you don't have to go through that exercise of generating invoice copies and reports for auditors if you are comfortable with giving them read-only access.
Yeah, the final thing I'll add is we do integrate directly with Salesforce.com. So it allows, for instance, your sales and account management team to have visibility into the collections process as well.
Great, thanks guys. So we have a couple questions asking the scope of implementation. So I think what they're asking for is post-implementation training, time it takes to get up and running, and I guess the amount of training included in implementation.
Certainly. Daryl, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. With AvidXchange, implementation depends on a couple of variables, not the least of which is the transaction volume that we'd be looking at. But also, one thing to bear in mind, there's two basic components to the solution platform, which are AvidInvoice and AvidPay. Now, you don't have to implement them both, although we suggest you do because they're very powerful when used together, but they can operate separately and independently of one another. So if you're only implementing AvidInvoice or only implementing AvidPay, typically it's going to take somewhere around 30 days. It could be as few as 45 days to implement both, but it's typically more like 60 to 75. And again, there are quite a few variables to consider there, but that's a good rule of thumb.
Yeah.
In terms of, I'm sorry, I forgot there was another part of that question, which is things like training and ongoing services. And with AvidXchange, when you sign an agreement, the implementation fee covers all training and ongoing support for the life of your agreement with AvidXchange.
Great. In terms of Lockstep, one of the things, we don't charge an implementation fee, so the subscription covers all of that. Our services are really focused around customer success. So we actually meet with you and go through your progression in terms of improvement. What were the goals that you were set out for? How have we attained those goals? Where are there options to optimize even further? So we're really there as a partner at every stage along the line. Now, we start with a best practices set of templates and workflows and everything else. And that, if we just go in with that and start there, it can go very quickly. But then other organizations say, no, I want to extend that. I want to take it further than what you've done. And so that can extend the timeline. The range of that looks anywhere from 40 to 60 days to go live. And that's kind of what we see in the marketplace.
Great.
As I mentioned, it's an ongoing consultation. So the services never end. We're there for you 100%.
Okay, a few more have come in. Does the system accept payments via EDI files?
So the remittance data can come in through, if you're asking about remittance information, that can certainly come in through EDI.
Yeah, with AvidXchange, Avid uses an intermediary step, so a clearing account, if you will. So all payments, whether they're check, direct deposit, or virtual card, will go through that account. So it's not EDI per se. the direct deposit, for example, kind of rides the ACH rails to fulfill that payment. Check is a check, and then the virtual card payment is based on an agreement that AvidXchange has with MasterCard to process card payments.
Okay, we also have some questions about getting a copy of the presentation. So I can share with everyone that we'll be sharing the recording of the presentation, but I do know that sometimes having the actual file is helpful. So Daryl and Matt, can you confirm if we'd be able to provide this handout?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Sure. Yep.
Great. Let's see, any other questions coming in? I think that's it. So all attendees, if questions come in later on while you share this recording with your team or you review the handout, feel free to direct them to SWK, marketing team at swktech.com, and we will make sure to direct your question to the appropriate parties who can get that answer for you. Like I said, we'll be sharing the recording with everyone who attended, as well as anyone who registered but was not able to make it to the presentation. And you should be getting that recording sometime tomorrow. As for the gift cards that we talked about in the beginning, you'll be getting that within 24 hours if you attended the presentation. So I think that's it, guys. Thank you so much for all of your great information. Always great to present with you guys. And like I mentioned before, SWK really puts a lot of work and effort into partnering with the right organizations for our customers and also for prospects out there that are looking for AP and AR automation. And with Lockstep and AvidXchange, we have found a lot of success with our customers, which is why we wanted to invite them today to present. And we really appreciate your work, Daryl and Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks, everyone.
I hope everyone has a great day.
Yes. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy your day.